If you're a freelancer watching this video, it means you are an A++ freelancer who recognizes how essential to the client experience a good onboarding is. So a round of applause for you. Just as a quick recap, onboarding is essentially what happens after a client signs and pays that first invoice. So a simplified client funnel is like awareness, interest, desire, action, and action is making that sale, then onboarding is that immediate next phase. So for me, when I hire, good onboarding makes the biggest difference to how I feel after I pay somebody money. It is the difference between feeling like, OMG, I'm so glad I hired this person, they are already making my life easier, to what is happening, I'm confused what the next step is, concerned look on my face. So today, I'll walk you through how I would create a client onboarding workflow in Dubsado for free. We'll first go through how to map out exactly your onboarding process, what are the steps, then we'll actually set it up together step by step on my screen. This video is part of my Digital Business Manager Project in the Life series where I show you examples of projects I got paid to do as a DBM for my clients. This is one example of a service you can offer as a DBM, is to set up onboarding workflows for clients. Hey, my name is Daya, freelancer, digital business manager, and most recently entrepreneur. And as always, you can find sections on the play bar below if you want to skip to a certain part of the video. Your time is precious. Take what you need. If you want to watch this on 2x, please feel free to do so. I only ever watch myself on 2x. I will not be offended. Okay, let's dive into the video. So the first step to this is we need to map out the workflow just roughly before we dive into any of the tools. We need to create that step-by-step process of what's going to happen when you sign a client, and you'll have to decide this. What do you want to happen, right? Do you want confetti? Do you want a cake to be delivered? Do you want them to get a welcome email? You can make any of those things happen. You just have to make sure you plan it. So the first question to ask is, how do I want my client to feel right after making that first payment to me, right? So have a think about that. For me, I want a client to feel taken care of. Like, I've thought ahead, I've prepared for them, I'm rolling out the red carpet. I want them to be clear on what is going to happen. I want them not to feel overwhelmed and stressed. So how can you achieve that? By A, making sure I give them clarity on the next step, what's going to happen, and B, getting all the information I need from them prior to the onboarding call. So now ask yourself, what do I need to get started with this client? How can I guarantee our first 30 days are a success? And what does my client need to get started working with me? What are those essentials? So if you want, you can take a second, pause this video, make a list on a scrap piece of paper. Don't worry so much about the order of everything yet, just write down everything that comes up. This will look obviously different depending on if you are a freelance graphic designer or a freelance virtual assistant or a freelance digital business manager, because you'll require different things from your clients to get started. So here's some things you may have written down. They need to book an onboarding call with you to kick off working together. They need to send you links to their websites and products. You need to review what they submit before the onboarding call. You need to send them that welcome email to actually be like, hey, I'm so excited, like we're gonna work together. So now that you have this list, we're gonna reorganize these to-dos into an order. So take a look at what you've written down and rearrange them into what needs to happen first, second, and third. Cool, now we can create a workflow. So you can do this on paper, or you can open up something like Miro or Google Drawings and create it in there. I'll pull mine up over my face so you can see it visually. So the trigger for us is probably when the prospect tells us that they want to move forward, either verbally or via email, that they want to officially work with us and that we should send over the contract and the invoice, right? That is when we want the onboarding workflow to begin. Okay, so once we mark that a prospect wants to proceed, we want the workflow to begin. So once they do that, what do we want the first thing to happen to be? We want to automatically send the contract and invoice, right? We need to get that. That's like ASAP. Do not begin work until you have a contract signed and an invoice paid. So once that happens, the client hopefully then signs the contract, pays that first invoice. Once they do that, for me, I want it to be that the client gets a welcome email containing an attached welcome packet. And I want to make sure that they fill out an onboarding form after that welcome email. And after they fill that form out, I want them to book an onboarding call. Once they fill out that form and book a call, I want to make myself a to-do to review what they submitted and prepare for that onboarding call with that client. You can also send a reminder email to yourself an hour before the call, but hopefully your calendar tool has reminders already. So broadly speaking, that is going to be our workflow. We roughly know the flow of it, the flow. So now step 2 is to create or gather your assets and necessities. So now look through your workflow and make a list of the things you need. Let's look at my workflow, for example, and see what needs to be created. So we need to write a welcome email. We need to create an onboarding form. We need to create a welcome packet. So that's cool. Now we know those are 3 things we need to have prepared. So onboarding flow, we can create directly in Dubsado. If you're using Dubsado, we can create it in there. But the other 2 things, let's make sure we do those. So 1, you'll have to draft up a welcome email. It can be simple. Make sure to convey your excitement. More importantly, make sure the email is clear and simple. Make sure that that first impression isn't overwhelmed for your client. Or the alternative is actually Dubsado has a pretty nice welcome email template already, so we can just adapt that a little, which don't worry, I'll show you how to do that in a second. The second thing is to create a welcome packet. This is kind of optional. I like to do it. I didn't do it in the beginning because I didn't know to do it, but eventually I did learn that it would be helpful. So I normally create like a little slide deck and include intro stuff in the welcome packet. And I walk through like our project, the scope to reiterate to them and have it in writing again, the process, the timeline, any expectations, and communication boundaries as well. Step 3 is now we're going to be setting up the basics in Dubsado. So now we kind of want to put all the pieces together. I promise that doing this in Dubsado will be easy since we've already done all the foundational work in step 1 and step 2. So we're going to be using Dubsado today. This is unfortunately not sponsored, and yes, there are alternative other tools. I just like Dubsado and I recommend it because they give you 3 clients for free. So it's really great for those of you starting out who don't want to pay for a monthly subscription yet when you are pre-revenue. It's also pretty powerful for a free tool, in my opinion. I do have an affiliate link below, but honestly what I get via the link is not very interesting for me. It's Dubsado credit and I no longer use Dubsado, but the link will get you 20% off your first month if you want to upgrade eventually. So I'll leave the link there, but you can also just type dubsado.com into your browser. And remember, your first 3 clients are free anyway, so you can use it completely for free when you first get started. So let's pull up Dubsado and little Dea will take you through this. All right, so let's dive into Dubsado and set this up. So the first thing that I just want to walk you briefly through this left-hand side so you're kind of aware of some of the terminology and where to find things. So dashboard in Dubsado just means like the overview of what's going on, open invoices, you can set goals. If you have calendar events in your Dubsado calendar, you can see them over here. So it's kind of like, yeah, just like a dashboard, exactly how it sounds. Projects is where you'll see all of your client projects and you can assign projects to clients. You can see how many leads you have, so you can actually track before somebody becomes a job at what stage of the lead process they're in, and then move them to jobs, and you can kind of see everything over here, an overview of what's going on, if they've paid their invoice, if you've sent the contract, that kind of stuff. Under reporting, it's just kind of like analytics of stuff. So if you want to look at things, if you want to see where you can like assign a source to a project, and then later you can kind of see project sources, project breakdown. Not super important, it's more advanced, so we're going to ignore it for now. And then you have calendar, which is just your calendar. So if a client books something onto your calendar, either like a call or something like that, or a catch up or a discovery call, potentially for a prospective client, it'll all show up here and you can integrate it to your calendar, whatever calendar system you're using, and just make sure that is all synced up. Tasks, it's kind of like a to-do list of items that you can make. You can kind of essentially do task management in Dubsado. So something I really like about Dubsado is they have really tried to integrate as much of the essentials as possible into one place, because what I really don't like is having to check 15 different tools to understand where my business is at and to find all my to-dos and all my calendar items. So if you want, you can do your project management, task management within Dubsado if you want. Utilities, this is just kind of like a list of all the forms you have. Your address book is a list of all the clients that you've set up, and time tracker is quite cool. You can track your time in Dubsado as well and assign it to projects, which is quite useful. So you don't have to use an external time tracker. Templates is where we're going to be spending more time. It's where we're going to start setting up some of the basics so that everything else goes easier. Scheduler, so cool. Dubsado now has an appointment scheduler. It's in beta, but I really like it. So you don't have to use an external scheduler like Calendly or Acuity. You can do it with Dubsado, and clients can book a time directly via Dubsado. Forms are things like questionnaires, intake forms. We'll look at that in a second. Canned emails are like email templates that you can set up, so you can reuse email templates for every new client, so you don't have to retype anything. Packages are kind of like if you have defined packages, like for example, a website build if you are a web developer, or if you're a graphic designer, like maybe branding would be a package. If you are a digital business manager, maybe a package of yours would be project management or team management. So you can set up predefined packages here. Workflow is where we're going to be making our workflow, you guessed it. And payment plan is kind of where you can set up your payment schedules. If you have different payment schedules, like 50% upfront, 50% after, or if you want to do 100% upfront, you can like apply it and everything. So that's just a brief walkthrough of the left-hand side, but don't worry, we're going to dive into it and I'll share a little bit more of how to use things as we're going into it. The first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to go into your settings and update some of the branding and the basic information just to make sure we have those things in place. So you can upload a logo if you have one. You don't have to if you don't have one. You can change the color. I would make sure to fill out your name, your business email, super important. I would make sure to fill out your business address, very important. This is essential for sending contracts, so you definitely want to include this in there so it knows what to pull it from essentially. So once you fill that out, another important thing is, just as a heads up, if you want to receive money in Dubsado, aka allow clients to pay directly on your Dubsado invoice, then you will need to connect a way to receive money essentially. So receive, you can pick whatever country you're based in, the currency you want to receive it in, and then it'll tell you what integrations you can use, what payment processors you can use. So for me, I could integrate Stripe, I think, and PayPal and Square. So you can decide how you want to get paid and integrate it in Dubsado so that when you send an invoice via Dubsado, a client sees something like pay now and they can pay it directly into your Stripe, PayPal, Square account. So that's really good too. As much as possible, we always want to simplify and not make clients jump through too many hoops when they're about to work with us. We want them to know how to pay us very, very fast. So that's the next thing. And then the third thing that I will have you look at is the emails section. So if you want to, you can connect Dubsado with your Gmail account so that the emails are coming from your email instead of Dubsado to the client. So like if you're sending the client a welcome email, it'll come from your email. Like for example, team@dbmbootcamp.com. So you can just connect that if you would like to. It's obviously optional, but I would do it because I'm pretty sure there are also email limits. Like yesterday when I was testing all of this in Dubsado, I hit an email limit because I didn't connect my email. So I would just connect to your email. Cool. So that is what I would do in the settings, your branding, receive money, emails. You can look through the other stuff if you want to, but those are the three key things you definitely want to do. All right, next step, what we'll want to do is go into templates and we'll want to set up your scheduler. So go to templates, scheduler, and what you'll want to do here is think about the different types of calls you have. So for example, you have a 15-minute discovery call. So for example, here it's called a free consultation. Maybe then you have a 1-hour paid session. Maybe you have a 6-hour VIP day that they can book. So think about the types of calls, the length, and yeah, what the names of them are, and you can set them up right here as templates. And then you can send people access to only book that type of call. Like you don't want to send somebody I don't know, a link to book any type of call if they're booking a VIP day. You want them to book that VIP day set up so that it blocks the right amount of time on your schedule, right? So for us, what we're gonna do for this exercise is we're gonna set up an onboarding call template. So we'll click add template, we'll do add template, we'll type in onboarding call. And then appointment duration, however long your onboarding call you want it to be. Let's just say it's 60 minutes. So next up, you'll want to decide when this appointment can be scheduled. So I normally just pick rolling day window, which just means that it's essentially if they join today, they have the next 2 weeks to book an onboarding call so that it's not a fixed date range essentially. Rolling day is just like you can select how far in advance they can book it and it will always adjust it according to when they sign the contract. So I would do rolling day window and I would do like a 14-day rolling day window probably. And you can decide now when you are available and you can kind of adjust it accordingly. Like let's say you only work 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. or you only want them to book the onboarding call between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. then you can adjust that. And you can adjust it for the days. Like if you don't take calls on Fridays, you can remove that completely as an option and just select the setting. So go ahead and set that up. You can take some time. And then once booked, you want to show as busy. Location, you can put your Zoom or Google Meet link, and the rest you can kind of ignore. We will set that up somewhere else and you'll just want to press save. So now you have your onboarding call template. Awesome. That's the first thing we want to set up. And then next up is we want to go to the canned emails and we want to take a look at the welcome canned email, and we want to adapt it to our likes and our tone and include your welcome packet if you would like to include one. So go on over, you can see they have lots of different templates, lots of cool things. You can take a look and just see if you want to update all of them, but really for the onboarding, we're just going to look at the welcome template first. So that is this one right here. So welcome. So we can take a look here. They call it portal welcome because with Dubsado, you can actually set up a portal for your client to see all of the communication, all of the contract invoicing documents, tasks, and everything. You can set up a portal and send the client access to that portal, and you can both use it. If you want, you can do that. You can keep it in here and yeah, just send them the link to their portal so that they can see everything. I personally find that clients get too overwhelmed if I give them too many things at first glance, so I normally don't even send them the portal. So you can just adapt this welcome email however you best see fit, what you want them to do. So for example, for me, what I want to do is first of all, make them feel super welcome, make them feel super excited. I want to tell them that the onboarding form is coming in another email ASAP. I want them to review the welcome packet that I'm going to link directly in this email. And I want to tell them that the link to schedule an onboarding call will come after the form. So it's important that they fill out the form. So essentially give them their step 1 and step 2. So for me, what I would do is I would do step 1, make sure, or maybe I would do something like review welcome packet. All right, so this is just a rough draft. Obviously, you can spend a little bit longer on this if you would like to. So it's like, if it's official, I'm so thrilled to be working together. You can adapt it to your voice. You can add GIFs, you can add emojis, whatever makes sense for your brand. So the first thing I want them to do is review the welcome packet. So I will include that link here. Very important, don't forget to include the link. It can just be hosted on Google Drive or Dropbox, whatever makes sense for you. To hyperlink, I don't know why it's so hidden. Go into formatting options and you'll find insert link. I don't know why that took me so long yesterday to find. And then step 2 is make sure that you tell them that a form is coming their way in the next few seconds, because in the workflow, we're gonna make it that the welcome email sends and the form comes right like 1 second after. So this is really important, and tell them why it's so important for them to fill it out, and that after they fill it out, they will be able to book an onboarding call on your calendar. And another thing I really like to do is give them deadlines, because sometimes if you don't give people deadlines, they'll never do them. So I'll be like, please fill out this form within the next 48 hours, 72 hours, depends on kind of the urgency of the project. So I would just adjust that. And once you're happy with your welcome email, you can just go down here and press save and close. Perfect. Now, the next thing we have to do is set up forms. Don't worry, we're almost done. So set up forms. They already have a sample intake questionnaire here, which is essentially what it is. It's like when you intake the client, what you need from them. So you can just build off of that. So if you click into that, you can see that you can really build it to be whatever you want. You can add your logo, you can adjust the questions, which obviously you should do. There are lots of options, yes, no questions, there are drop downs, there are options like where they can tick multiple select. And there's also choose files. If you need them to upload, let's say a logo or something, then that's great. So just make sure you take some time, think about what you need from them, and make sure you leave these address things in, because you will definitely need that information from the client. Any goals you want to set as a foundation, so you have those in mind. Any preferences that they have to communication, meetings, anything. So make sure to fill all of that out. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want this video to get too long, but this is where you do that, and then you can press save, and then just keep in mind this is now your onboarding questionnaire. You can also rename it to onboarding if that will be clearer to you. Now, yes, over here you can set up packages if you would like to. I'm not going to do that for this video because it's not necessary, but you can of course set up packages if you have predefined packages already in your business. Now, the last thing we're going to do before we go into the workflow is go into our payment plan and set up and have a think about what payment plan we want to apply. So I'm just going to keep things super simple. I'm going to just set up a new template. I'm going to pretend that I have a $2,000 project, and it is $1,000 upfront and $1,000 before the project wraps. So what I'll do is due date, I normally do like TBD because it will depend. You could also do like relative, like for example, how many days before the project start date it's due. So maybe it's due 2 days before the project starts. Amount you can divide equally, so that's like a percentage, which is like 50-50 if there are 2 installments. Percentage is like you can do a custom percentage like 22% or 38%, or you can do a fixed amount. So for me, I'm just gonna do a fixed amount because I know it's always $2,000. So then I'll add another installment, right? So this is before the project starts, $1,000 is due. And then I would say like a few days before the project ends, which you can do here. So before project end date. So let's say 2 days before the project ends, the other $1,000 is due. So there. So that is what my payment plan could look like. So I could call it something like 50-50 $2,000 package, like that, just so I remember it. That's what my thing is called. And you can also add reminders into these as well in case they miss it, in case you want to let them know before it's due, that kind of stuff. To keep it simple, I'm not going to add those right now. I'm just setting this up so you can kind of see how a payment plan would work depending on how your payment intervals are. Okay. We've done it. We've set up all of the basics. Now we can build our workflow. And if you're thinking, wow, this is a lot of work, this is a one-time setup of work, right? Like this is one-time setup and you will be able to reuse this and really be super professional to every single client that comes your way in the future. So it's really worth it to take the time to, to really pour some love into this. Cool, so now let's add and create our workflow. So we're gonna go up here and click add workflow. We're gonna call it our onboarding workflow. Next step is we are going to add our actions. So here you can select a payment plan. If it's, for example, this is the onboarding for my 2K package, it will apply this to the invoice in the workflow. So that's why it's useful, because then you don't have to tell it what to put in the invoice manually. It will automatically apply this to that invoice. So we will want to add our first action. So the action should be probably to send the contract after we, I don't know, let's say after we start the workflow, right? We want to manually start the workflow. After a client says, okay, I want to do the project with you, we'll go in Dubsado, we'll mark, okay, they want to do the project, and then we want everything else to happen automatically, right? So we'll just do 0 days after we start the workflow, we want to send this contract. So you can scroll down, you can, of course, there are tons of contract templates. You can use the ones from Dubsado. You can buy one on the contract shop and upload that if you want instead. So for the sake of the length of this video, I'm just gonna use their sample contract right here, but please make sure you go into templates and actually edit the sample contract to fit whatever you want it to be like. All right, and then here, you can adjust this copy however you would want to. If you feel like this is too dry, which I feel like it's a little bit dry, you can update it and adapt it to be a little bit more useful, helpful, guide them through it. You can, I don't know what other fun things you could do, but essentially you can just update the language of the email that they get when they are being prompted to sign the contract. So I'll just apply this though. So now we'll see after we start the workflow, they will send the contract, right? After that, after it sends the contract, I want it to immediately send the invoice, the first invoice. I don't want them to have to sign the contract and wait for the invoice. I want them to do it all at once to make it really easy for them. So we'll send the primary invoice after all previous actions are completed, which means Dubsado has sent the contract, not after. This does not mean after they've signed the contract. It means after it's been sent, so immediately, basically. And here, again, you can update the copy here if you would like. I feel this is a little bit dry too, so I'd probably write a little bit more. I do like kind regards. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help, and then I would sign it or something. But again, we're just gonna go with this for now. So we'll add it. So the contract and the primary invoice are gonna be sent immediately after you activate this workflow. That's what that means. So after that, I want to, like we discussed, send the welcome email. So we'll do send email, and we will pick the email that we've already adapted. So portal, welcome, and onboarding. So here you can see this is what we updated, right? This is what I wrote and updated in the canned email. So it's gonna auto-populate, but I can change, if I decide I wanna change something for this workflow, I can still do that here. And what we want to do here is not send the welcome email after all previous actions are completed, right? We don't want to send contract, invoice, and welcome email. I want to make sure that they've signed their contract before I welcome them on, because sometimes clients will get stuck at that phase. So you want to make sure they've paid money before you're taking them on properly as a client. Now, when we want to do this is probably after the invoice installment has been paid. So after they've paid money, that's probably when we want to send the welcome email to be like, officially, you're now a client. We're so excited to have you on. You will have to tell it which installment to check for. So we'll want to pick the one 2 days before the project start date, because that's the first installment, right? That's the first up 50% payment. So make sure to tell it to watch this. And once that $1,000 has been paid, it will send them officially, welcome, you are now a client, because they're not a client until they pay you money. So then we'll press apply. So now basically when you start the workflow, it'll send the contract, it'll send the invoice. Once they have paid this invoice, it will send them the welcome email with your welcome packet and reminding them to fill out the form, which we're about to add. Now it's very important for Dubsado to know that this invoice has been paid. If you use something outside of Dubsado, Dubsado is not going to magically know that this invoice has been paid. So just something to keep in mind. Again, you can hook up the payment methods in the settings and going into receive money and just, setting up whichever account you want to do. Next thing we want to do is send the intake form, right? Send form. All right, and then we'll probably want to do after all previous actions are completed, because I wanted to send at the same time as the welcome email. Again, I don't want them to have to jump through hoop and then wait and then hoop and then wait. I want to send the welcome and the form at the same time. So this looks good. 0 days after all actions have been completed. That means after it sends the welcome email, it will immediately send this form. So the form template to send, we want to do the sample intake questionnaire that we adapted. And you can change the email copy here if you would like to, if it's a little dry for you, but that's obviously up to you. So we'll press apply. All right, after we send the welcome and the questionnaire, I want to send them the scheduler to book a call on my calendar after they have finished the questionnaire. So I don't want to send them a time to book a call if they have not finished the questionnaire yet, because I need them to fill out that form before we chat so that I can review things that are happening, right? So we'll want to do send appointment scheduler, and then we'll want to do 0 days after form is completed, and you'll tell it is the sample intake questionnaire that we previously sent. So after they submit the questionnaire, it will send them the scheduler. You can add a scheduler template. We want to add the onboarding call that we've already selected. You can adjust the email copy here if you would like to, again, up to you, and then we'll just press apply. So technically that could be it, right? So after you start the workflow, they'll be sent the contract and invoice automatically. After they pay the invoice, they'll be sent the welcome email and the intake questionnaire automatically. And after they fill out the form, they'll be sent a link to your scheduler, which will get a call on your calendar to onboard this client with the info from the form that you need from them. Now you can get a little fancy. You can add a to-do at the end of this. Is like create a to-do in Dubsado for yourself. You can assign it to yourself and just say 0 days after appointment is scheduled, and we'll just tell it it's the onboarding call, and we'll say a reminder is like prep for the onboarding call with clients and make sure to review what they submitted. And here we can use the smart field and insert the client's first name like that. And this will just make a to-do on your task list so that you don't forget to review it for the onboarding call essentially. So if we apply, it'll just make a to-do after the appointment has been set. Now, that's it. That's our workflow essentially, but we are not done. We're not done. Step 5 is we have to test and make sure things are actually running okay. That is the most important thing about tech workflows, processes, is we can't just hope and pray that it's gonna be fine. I learned this lesson the hard way yesterday when I was setting this up, and I was on the support chat for hours with Dubsado trying to figure out some of these things. So step 5. We want to make sure everything works as intended, because the worst thing would be if we use our first client to test this workflow and it does something weird or unprofessional. So the 2 things you need to do for testing this workflow is 1, we'll just go to projects and we will go to new project and we'll just do like sample project, and we're going to set up a fake client, which is us. So I'd be like Dea, and then I would put in an email address that's like Dea I'm just gonna put in my email address to make sure that the emails are actually arriving. It's very important that you set your email address in this client. So like job status, we're just gonna put job for now. And then we are going to create project. So project has been created. Here it is. Wait, there it is. I was like, that's not who it is. Okay, so we've set it up. Make sure you input a business address as well. It's really essential for the contract part. So you can go to client, you can edit it, and then just make sure you add in a business address here. And then to activate the workflow, so this is how you do it for all future clients that you add, right? Because you'll add them as a project and as a client every single time like this, every time you have a new client. And once this opens up, you'll go to workflow. And then we will apply the onboarding workflow, right? It's showing us what exactly this workflow is, and we'll press apply. And it will begin it. It's an active workflow. It'll pop up here in a second. It will show us what has been done yet and what hasn't been done yet. So you'll see once you add them to the workflow, these two will happen immediately. So if you just give it a second, it will send you the email to sign the contract essentially. So now we'll see it's been ticked off, and in my inbox, I received the email with the sample contract and I got the email with the invoice. So as the client, then I would sign the contract, I would pay the invoice, which will trigger the rest, right? So right now I'm not gonna pay my own invoice because that would be silly. So if you ever have to force something without this has been completed, so I'm not gonna pay the invoice, so that means this one's not gonna be triggered because I'm not paying it. So I'll just press force now so that we can make sure everything runs through. So if I force now, it will send me then the welcome email to my inbox, and it will send me the sample form immediately as well, which I will fill out. An important thing to be able to trigger this next step, you have to fill out when you are testing this, the questionnaire in an incognito browser. If you don't, it's not gonna trigger the next step because it's not gonna recognize that you're a different person. It's gonna assume that you're the same person filling out your own form, which it's not going to accept as a form being submitted. This is why I was on support chat with Dubsado for so long yesterday. That's what we figured out, because I could not trigger this next one. It was because I was doing it in the same window. So make sure you open the form that you were sent via email in an incognito browser, fill that form out, submit it, and it will trigger the send appointment scheduler onboarding call. And then after that, after you schedule an appointment, just make sure that the scheduler works as you intended to. It will then create the to-do for you. So that is the fully tested, fully created onboarding workflow that you can now use for all clients in the future. So thoughts on this workflow, thoughts on Dubsado, have recommendations that I'm missing from your experience, let us know in the sharing circle in the comments below so we can all benefit. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay.